Hey guys, we are back at Hangman's Alley, and today we are building some housing as well as a communications area and some guard stations for the gunners here at Hangman's Alley. And my frame rates are continuing to erode here at this settlement, so bear with me if you see some jitteriness. But I had a lot of fun putting this build together, and there's some pretty cool stuff that I can't wait to share with you guys. So let's get started, shall we? Just like the previous video, today we're going to begin with the walkway, and we're going to start out with one of these shack bridges here, just to bridge this gap between the two roofs. And luckily, the lip here on the roof is almost the right height for the vanilla stairs, so we just glitch those into place. Didn't quite have the height right, so I'm just going to adjust that a little bit and get the support buried in the lip. Now we're going to place another set of vanilla stairs on the opposite side. And it's just a matter of getting the two to glitch together so they look like they're attached. Almost got it. Nice. So instead of using stairs to bridge this gap here, we're going to use some of these curved plyboards, but it's a little bit too long to fit on this surface. So I'm just going to use place everywhere to shrink it down. And then once we get the size right, just a matter of getting the angle correct, just so it looks natural. And that looks pretty good. And now we're going to go ahead and add a couple more plyboards just to, add a little bit of extra clutter. Just make it look a little extra junky. Just want to get the angle right. Nice. And now for an angled shack bridge, just to finish off this walkway here, get us down to the surface of the roof. Shrink it down a little bit just to get it in place. Looks pretty good. So the shack bridge there clips a little bit too much with the roof. You kind of got a half board there. It just didn't look right. So I'm going to use some of these plyboards to just cover that up. Now for the first structure we're going to build today, we're going to go into the metal tab and use some of these shack wall and roof combos. And we're just going to place that on this ledge here. And we want to get it so it's making contact with the ledge and it's sticking out over this slanted part of the roof. Just got to inch that into place. Almost got it. Now we're just going to snap another one to it. Now we're going to need some flooring. So we're going to go back into the wood tab and we're just going to grab some of these kind of junky looking floors. Just snap them on into place. Now they're not quite long enough, and I also wanted to break up the texture a little bit, so we're going to use some of the quarter boards to finish out that floor. And to finish out the wall, we're going to use one of these little end cap covers, I guess. With the corrugated steel, I think it matches well with the metal tab. And also, the variety of textures kind of helps with, just break things up a little bit. And then we'll go back to the metal tab for the roof. So I want to extend the structure out a little bit. You can see it doesn't quite go to the end of the roof there. So I want to use a shack wall and roof combo from the wood tab. And then we're going to take some of these quarter boards and snap them in. But you can see it doesn't quite snap in evenly. That just bothers me. So to fix that, you can start with snapping the floors in. And then they just kind of all snap together nice and flush. And then you remove a couple floors and you can drop in the wall and roof combo there. And now we can add in a couple of railings just to keep people from falling. Now for the gap on the other side, we're going to use the railings from the thematic and practical vendor tab just to change up the texture a little bit. Makes it a little more interesting to look at. Nice. There's a smokestack sticking through the floor in this corner, and we're going to use one of these fire barrels to just cover that up. And a set of vanilla stairs to finish off the structure, just so we can get in and out. Just a matter of lining it up so it doesn't clip through the roof too much. Nice. And now a set of stairs to get down to this structure. And we're going to use stairs from the scaffolding tab just to change it up a little bit. Plus they have a nice rusted metal look to it. They really fit this build well, I think. And now for some communication. Now I realize that this is a radar dish, but it looks a lot better than the larger satellite dishes that the gunners use most of the time, and I think it fits in pretty well. Similar to how we wired up the tripwire from a previous video, we're going to go ahead and wire up the dish here to a control console as well as a power source using conduits. Just a matter of shrinking the conduits down enough and then burying them into whatever objects you want connected with wires. You can see here I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting the sizing right. I just about got it there. It looks pretty good. So now let's go ahead and connect up the wires. Now it takes a little bit of doing because I can't grab a hold of that and jump at the same time. There we go. Now with the wires connected, we just have to place the conduits, not consoles, jeez. Just get that in there. Nice. Well, with the dish taken care of, we can move on to another conduit. Just a matter of getting it buried into the roof, but we don't want it to stick out the other side too much. You can see there that's definitely too much. Even though you're not going to see this side very often, it still would bother me. So we just have to adjust it a little bit after we shrunk it down, of course. That looks pretty good. So with the dish and the capsule all wired up, we can now start building the rest of the structure. Now my idea for this structure was that the capsule would be placed down and we would actually build a structure around it. So like a structure within a structure. So we just want to use some of these quarter boards and place them down so that we have a framework that we can build upon. And once you get the first one in place, the others will just snap to it. But because we're building outside of the build limit, I have to place something in bounds before I can place it out of bounds. Just a limitation of place everywhere. Or probably the game engine, not place everywhere. But you can see they go in pretty easily. Now this last piece here will clip with the capsule, but it actually doesn't look off, so that's still pretty good. Now with the flooring in place, we can start building the structure up a little bit. And we're going to go back to the wood tab and use shack wall and roof combo again. And we're just going to use place everywhere to inch it into place. I didn't want it to stick out over the edge of the roof at all. Nice. Now the opposite wall will just snap into place. And then we can take a roof and snap it to that wall, and it clips in with the flat roof I placed earlier. Now for the front wall, we're going to go into the Homemaker mod, and we're going to use one of these kind of junky looking wooden walls. It'll help round out the improvised nature of this structure, and it just looks pretty cool. One of my favorite half walls. Since we used regular floorboards instead of using the floorboards that are on stilts, we're going to have to cover up the fact that it's floating, and we can just use shack walls for that, of various types, from the wood tab as well as some of the more junky ones from the Homemaker tab, like this half wall here. Fits in pretty nicely. It'll cover up the fact that it's floating and, you know, again, add to the junky look. And now to close off that back side. Luckily it's just a little piece, so we can use another half wall. And we just bury that on in. Now we're not actually going to see this, so not 100% necessary, but it would still bother me because I would know it was there. Now there was a little bit too much wood with this structure, so from the metal tab I'm just going to grab one of the metal walls and use the same technique we did to cover up the floating on the other side, just this time with metal. Originally, I had railings here to keep people from falling off, but I decided to use a full wall instead of the railings just to change up the look a little bit. With the structure mostly complete, we can go ahead and continue with the wiring, but first we're going to have to place a control console for the communications dish. So now we're going to take a conduit, and this is the exact same technique we used earlier. Just connect the wire and then bury it in the console so it looks like the wire is attached to the console. Nice. And now to attach the other end of that wire to this power conduit here. So we just shrink it down using place everywhere, and then just bury it into the tower there. And now we have power to our dish. And now to continue with the roof, and you can see when I snap it into place there, it clips too much with the capsule. So we can use place everywhere to just raise that up to the right height, but it creates a gap there in between the roof and the wall. So a second wall will snap into place, and it actually ends up looking pretty good. Now we just do the same thing for this back side here, and we should be good to go. Now to close off this little area by the capsule, we're going to use one of these half walls from the Homemaker tab, the junky one that I used from before. I just like the way it looks. But you can see it's not quite big enough to fill that entire gap, so we're going to have to come up with a different solution. So I think this railing here will cover up that gap nicely. So we just have to get it close enough so that it clips with the wall, but it still looks, you know, natural, I guess. So I'm just trying to get it close enough there so that it sticks through. We'll have to adjust the wall a little bit as well. I think that looks pretty good. Now it was looking a little empty next to the communications shack, so we're going to go ahead and build a little makeshift home using some wood and metal pieces here. Now I wanted it right up against the edge there, and it's going to be a relatively small structure, so we're just going to snap a few things into place. Nothing too complicated. Now since the structure itself is going to be relatively simple, it's just going to be this box with the curved end cap there, we're going to vary the textures a little bit with corrugated steel and wood, as well as the metal end cap there and a metal roof. Should make it a little bit more interesting to look at. And now for the end cap on this curved metal wall, we're going to go ahead and go into the G2M mod. In the construction tab, they have these corrugated steel end caps. Now that was actually brought up in the comment section of a previous video, and I think it looks really good. Now for the final area of today's build, we're going to build a little guard station, and we're going to start out with this guard post and just place it in the middle there. With the guard post in place, we can take some of these junk fences from the Homemaker mod and place them on either side. They'll act as a little bit of protection, close off this area a little bit, and then we can also use one of them as the foundation for a simple structure that we're going to go ahead and put together here. Now it's just a matter of getting them close to the edge of the roof there. We don't want them to clip through too much, and that looks pretty good. Now with the junk wall in place, we can just go ahead and take a roof, and we just want to lower it down on top of the wall there, just so it looks like they're attached. And the roof's a little bit larger than the wall, but I think it'll still work out okay. With the roof in place, this center wall will just snap right in. Now back to the Homemaker mod, we're going to use my favorite half wall, and we're just going to use that to close off most of this structure here, but still leave a makeshift doorway. Just a matter of lining it up correctly. And for the final touch, we're going to go ahead and use one of these shack columns to just support this side of the roof. Nice. So here we are on the bridge heading towards Hangman's Alley, and you can see the work we did in the previous video with some of the makeshift structures we have there on the roof. And a little bit further to the right, you can see some of the work we did in today's video. This is just a good view from a distance, and you can definitely tell that there are some people living in Hangman's Alley. You can see smoke from the grill up there. So now that we're in Hangman's Alley, let's go across this little bridge here and head down to the first set of housing that we built. So as we walk down the ladder here, you can see a great view of the river. Have a great vantage point of anyone coming down that road or across the bridge. That really is beautiful. Now heading inside this little area here, we have our housing for the Gunner Special Forces. Now these soldiers take their orders directly from Gunner Command that's outside of the Commonwealth. And their mission is to locate and assess the Institute. And you can see they've been completely segregated out from the rest of the gunners here at Gunner Plaza North. They take their meals here, they sleep here, they all have their own storage by their beds, as well as their own stash of weapons. You can see an Institute rifle there, some ammo and grenades, as well as what looks like a Watts prototype laser rifle. That comes from a mod called the Watts laser gun. Highly recommended. I use that particular mod on both my current characters. Now walking across this way, we can head towards that communication area we built earlier. I will have to dress this area up a little bit before the final tour. Before we take a look inside the communication shack, let's take a look inside this small dwelling here. I really do like the varied textures that we talked about earlier. I think it looks pretty good. And that corrugated steel wall there looks really nice as well. You can see this guy's pretty sparse in his decoration. A few chems and some ammo on that shelving unit over there. And then of course a little bit of storage and a bed. And that brings us to the communication shack. And you can see it really does look thrown together. I'm really happy with the way this particular structure turned out. Probably my favorite one of this build. Nice and large. You can see all the different textures in there. And it's separated out into a couple different areas as well, which I like. Now coming up the stairs here, you can see we have a little storage area. It's a little bare, a little tiny little balcony. And then of course we have a little sleeping area here. You always have to have somebody ready to communicate out with Gunner Command. And of course some cigarettes, little transponder unit there, and of course some mentats. If you're going to be working on electronics, you might need a little intelligence boost. And over here we have some alcohol, of course, and it looks like some railroad tech they were able to salvage. Wonder where they found that from. Tinker Tom's not going to be too happy. And now in this little room here, we have a small area for electronics repair and salvage. Looks like some circuitry laid out, as well as some other tech. And then here's the actual communication shack. There's the console that controls the communications dish, as well as a ham radio for some local communication. Looks like a couple of ammo boxes there as well. I really like the way the capsule mixes with the wood. You know, just I'm really happy with the way that looks. Now walking out this way, we come across our first guard station. Drop down here, pretty simple. Just a little table set out with some ammo and grenades. Of course, a little bit of whiskey, and a cigarette. You know, it is the apocalypse after all. And a great view. Now, coming around this way, you can see a makeshift ladder that I put together. Now, if you're interested in seeing how I made that, I detailed that process in my Gunner Shops video, so I encourage you to check that out if you're interested. Now, dropping down here, we have our guard area. Now we have a little sleeping area for this particular guard. Pretty sparsely decorated, but there is some storage. Now, right next door, we have quite a bit of storage for munitions. Looks like there's a minigun there. Really wouldn't want to piss this guy off. And that brings us to our guard post. It has a great view of the road running along this side of Gunner Plaza North. And then next to that, behind this junk wall, we have a little seating area with a little bit of alcohol set out and a bit of storage as well. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions about this build or any thoughts about any of my other builds. Subscribe if you want to see when my next video goes live. We'll be back here at Hangman's Alley doing some more work on the rooftops. Just 1 or 2 more videos and I think we'll be good here at Hangman's, so that's pretty exciting. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and until then, enjoy your time in the Commonwealth.